build up energy, and that energy is good. It will happen that when that seat in your house that you've designated as your meditation seat, when you go to sit in it, immediately your mind will be happy because it knows it's going to get a break. It's all sorts of association involved. When you come into the Gompa, if you have a place where you like to sit there. In fact, what will happen when you go to retreats is you will stake out your place, and that will be yours, and you won't move your meditation cushion. You don't do that. You just keep your meditation cushion there. Now, if a new person enters the class and they happen to sit in your chair, you don't clobber them. They didn't know that that's where you've been sitting. Now, if you would like to reserve a spot in the Gompa, I bet Nicole would give you a spot for $1,000 a year and have your name put on the chair. So talk to us about it. Okay. And we should be knowing our 7-point posture by now. Feet flat on the floor or sit in a comfortable cross-leg position. Hands in the lap, left on the bottom, right on the top. Fingers aligned, palms cupped. This brings the thumbs together naturally into a triangle at approximately the navel level. The arms are slightly away from the body to allow for the passage of air. The singularly most important part of the posture is your spine. It should be straight but not rigid. Your head is slightly forward. This casts your vision down towards the floor, but you don't want to be distracted by your vision. So lower your eyelids, leaving a small slit of light so that your nervous system is kept alert by that light, so you don't become too drowsy. The tongue is on the upper palate behind the front teeth. The lips are lightly closed and the jaw is loosely open. This is your ideal meditation posture. And the main focus, remember, is your straight back. And of course, setting your motivation is critical. Lama Zopa says, when you sit to meditate, if all you have is time for the motivation, your time hasn't been wasted. So establish your own motivation, make it personal. And whatever it is, if you're starting with just a mere headache, then start there. But end up going as far out as you can by thinking about yourself being freed from your own bondages, so that then you're in the perfect position to be able to benefit others. How wonderful that would be. So we're going to practice the 9-round breathing meditation. It comes from the esoteric tradition of Tibetan Buddhism. And it's a profound method to clear up the energy channels in the body and to make the mind more serviceable for meditation. It's a way to bring your mind into neutral so that you can go forward with other meditations. So let's start for just a minute by focusing our attention on our breathing. Use the technique of counting the breath to set and to bring your mind into a state of deeper focus and concentration, ready to engage in the meditation. So you should know the state, I call it the stabilizing meditation. Just breathe in and out and count each in and each out as one unit. And try to count to 10. If you can't make it to 10, you start all over again. So remind yourself of your motivation. Don't forget that. You're meditating not just for your own individual benefit, but you're meditating to develop your mind to become a wiser and kinder person, able to be of benefit to all beings. So now we're going to begin by visualizing the 3 psychic channels or tubes within our body. And these psychic tubes or channels are that which through our wind energy moves. These channels are round and hollow. There's 3 of them, one that's in the middle and 2 on either side. And they're about the size of a straw. And they're very fine and smooth and flexible and luminous. So the central channel starts at a point midway between your eyebrows. Now it's not external, it's inside. It can't be seen by an X-ray machine, but it's there. It's a psychic channel. So somewhere in the middle of your head, inside at the eyebrow point, there's a channel that's blue. Remember, it's fine and luminous and flexible. And this channel goes up to the top of the head and curves around like the handle of an umbrella. It's inside the skull. This is all going on inside the skull. And like the handle of an umbrella, it turns around and then goes down along the inside of the spine. Actually, it's right in front of the spine. And it goes down to 4 finger widths below the navel. Then the right channel is red. So it's blue in the center, red on the right. And it runs from the right nostril back and then downwards along the right side of the central channel. So again, it goes up through the skull, hooks around, just like the other one, like the handle of an umbrella or like a candy cane. It's red and it runs from the right nostril downward along the right side of the central channel, again to end up 4 finger widths below the navel. And the left channel just duplicates that, but it's white. And it also runs from the left nostril up and hooks around and goes along the left side of the spine. And it also ends 4 finger widths below the navel. And we're going to visualize that these 3 channels join at the point 4 finger widths below the navel. So just take a moment to try to establish this visualization. Maybe until today, you never even really believed there was psychic energy. But there is psychic energy, and the psychic energy travels through these 3 channels. And what we're going to do today is clear those channels because they get blocked by our emotions. And they can actually lead to physical illness. So now begin by holding the left nostril closed with your index finger. And then inhale slowly and fully through the right nostril. And imagine that the breath is going up to the top of the skull and then hooking around. And then it goes all the way down the right channel. And when it gets down to the bottom, it goes into the left channel. And you move your index finger now to hold the right nostril closed. And now you exhale slowly and fully through the left nostril. And as you breathe out through the left nostril, imagine that all impurities, such as distraction energy, mental dullness, they're all expelled with that breath. So now let's repeat that 2 more times. So it'll be 3 breaths in all. Inhaling through the right nostril. And exhaling through the left. And imagining the impurities being expelled with each out breath. And now reverse the process, holding the right nostril closed with your index finger. Breathe in deeply through the left nostril, sending the breath all the way down to the end of the left channel. And now again, as the breath moves into the right channel, move your index finger to hold the left nostril closed. Exhale slowly and fully through the right nostril. As the breath leaves the right nostril, imagine that all impurities are expelled with the breath. And again, we'll repeat this 2 more times. So it's 3 breaths in all. Inhaling through the left nostril and exhaling through the right. If you're doing this, you should be able to automatically feel some release of tension in your body. And then finally, inhale slowly and deeply through both nostrils. The blue, the red on the right, the white on the left. Breathe in deeply and slowly. The air goes up to the top of the skull, hooks around like the candy cane, and now it goes down through the right and left channels, cleaning out the channels. And now as you exhale, imagine that the breath is expelled up and out through the central channel. And as you breathe out, imagine that you are expelling all impurities, all problems, all delusions through the point between the 2 eyebrows. So do this 2 more times for 3 breaths in all. And now imagine that the 3 channels are completely clean and luminous. Hopefully your mind is not scattered and not distracted. If you were doing this on your own, if your mind was like that, you would repeat the process. But we're going to just do this now 1 time. And your breathing, just make sure your breathing is gentle and even. And imagine that your 3 channels are completely clear. You have no psychic energy blockages. And they're luminous, and your breath flows freely through the inner channels of your body. You really should feel quite good right now. And now we want to be mindful of the next meditation. Allow your mindful attention to expand, to encompass your entire sphere of experience, of your consciousness. Forget that there is an observer and something being observed. Simply imagine your experience and your consciousness as being just like the sky. Not the sky today that's all full of clouds. That's how our mind normally is. Our mind is normally obscured by the clouds of delusions. Like the sky today is obscured by rain clouds. But that is not the sky, and our confusion is not our mind. They are simply the clouds that are obscuring the radiance of the sky and the radiance of our mind. So go beyond the clouds and see the completely clear, vast, spacious, without end sky and mind. Your mind is like that. So concentrate on the experience of removing the clouds from the sky, and then make it analogous to removing the delusions from your mind. And get the feeling of being completely clear, completely vast, spacious, without end. And make an identity with this experience, not with the poor me experience. Calm, clear, spacious awareness. Even your breath is becoming subtle. Everything's being slowed down into peace. Another example beyond the sky is to imagine that your mind is like an ocean. From its own side, the ocean is completely calm. It's causes and conditions that make the waves, not the ocean. The waves on the ocean are like thoughts and other mental events. It's like the fish that are swimming through the water of the ocean. Swim through the clear, spacious medium of the water, right? But they're not the ocean. They are just fish that are passing through the clear, spacious medium of the water. And when we have distracting thoughts, those are not our mind. They are like the fish going through the water. The thoughts are going through our mind, but they are not the mind. This is a really aha moment. When you can hold the mind in its natural clarity state, that is the natural state. And then begin to observe that everything that arises in the mind is not the mind. The mind is always calm and clear. And depending on what we're thinking or what we're going through, we can have waves in our mind, like waves in the ocean. but we're not ordinarily aware of the nature of our mind, are we? We don't sit with this calm and peace and say this is our mind. Ordinarily, we only see the fish of thoughts. Ordinarily, we only see the problems. But today, we're just sitting here, enjoying the vast spaciousness of the ocean-like mind. And we're just watching whatever arises to be like a fish that comes and goes, and the ocean just doesn't care. It's like we're observing an aquarium through a large glass wall. When we do that, if you've ever been to the aquarium, all you see are the fish. It's like all we see in our mind are the thoughts. If someone were to tell you to observe the clear water in which the fish were swimming, at first we might have difficulty noticing the water because of its transparency. But by simply realizing that the fish could not be swimming unless there was some substance to swim in, it can take our attention away from observing the fish and focus instead on the clear water. And that's what we want to do with our mind. In the same way, in the example I just used, we don't want to focus on the fish, but on the transparent clarity of the water around it. With this meditation, we want to let go of paying attention to our fish-like thoughts. Instead, step back and recognize and experience the clear light nature of our mind. And it's this clear light nature, which is through what the thoughts and the other mental events occur in the clear light nature, but they are not our mind. Our mind is clear light. And with this meditation, your job is to familiarize yourself with that ocean-like quality, with clear spaciousness. So just sit and experience that clear spaciousness. And when any thought or any distraction arises, just recognize that it is like a fish going through the water. The fish is not the water. The thoughts are not our mind. Our mind is clear. In our ordinary state of mind, every day we go about being busy. We have conversations. We're always planning. We're always thinking. We're always worrying, making lists. You name it, you know your life. And that's like we live on the surface of the ocean. All these thoughts and feelings that we entertain, all these ideas that we have, they seem to fill up our mind so we can't take another thing. And this is like there were a huge whale in the ocean. Like that, we have a lot of waves in our mind. We have a lot of turbulence. We have a lot of agitation, which creates anxiety and fear and anger and a big poor me feeling. But the more we do this meditation, the more we identify with our ocean-like mind and let go of the waves of emotions, let go of the fish-like thoughts, the more we can do that, the more we're able to descend to the quiet depths of that ocean-like mind. So just practice that right now. Anything arises in your mind, just let it go through your mind like a fish. Don't try to catch it or tame it or feed it. Just let it go because you're concentrating on the clarity of the mind. And the more you do this, the more you'll reach a state of peace, the still state, free of agitation and disturbance. Now, in the aquarium example, we will continue to see fish swimming in front of us. Even as we focus on the water, there are still fish. But however, when we do this meditation and we focus on the clear light nature of our mind, our thoughts will begin to diminish in intensity and frequency. And this will continue to quiet the mind, and it will enhance our ability to concentrate. Now, when you identify with and are carried away uncontrollably by a thought, a feeling, or we lose our awareness of the spacious clarity of the mind, of the vast, clear, and knowing nature of the mind, within which each thought or feeling occurs, just recognize it as much as you can and let go of it. Because otherwise, and you can play act with this, when you see our minds getting carried away by worry, concern, anger, our perspective becomes small and constricted. We can even feel our shoulders tensing, our teeth grinding. And now it's as if all there is are waves. We've completely lost the ocean. We've completely lost that open and quiet spaciousness. So now let go of all that. Remember, they're just like fish going through the water. And now re-identify with the water instead of the fish, instead of the whale. Put your attention, your identification, all back on the clarity of the mind. and simply observe the thoughts and feelings arising without getting involved. And now your attention is on the ocean instead of the fish and the waves. And we can reside in that spacious purity of our basic clarity of mind. Naturally, from its own side, the mind is calm, clear, peaceful, open, and spacious. From our own side, from its own side, there is no agitation, no delusions, no anxiety, no distress in the mind. Naturally, the mind is not dissatisfied. It does not have attachment. It does not have aversion. So let go of all those fish-like thoughts and simply look at the clarity of the mind. Become union oneness with the clarity of the mind. And then hold that stillness, that level of concentration, but relax the body. And we'll have a little discussion. So I'd like to know how people experience, what kind of experience you had with that meditation. Looks like everybody's gone. It's truly like everybody's gone deep into the ocean. So did anybody practice this meditation during the week, or did you do the sky? Or what did you do during the week? Anybody? Everybody?
I was using both.
Okay.
There's the only notes I made from last week is make your mind clear, like the sky clear, and make your mind like the ocean calm.
Okay.
And so I was using those as a focal point. Today, what I was experiencing is it's almost like paradoxical. Isn't everything though, right? And that here I am thinking, right, that I need to be relaxing, yet I'm concentrating, right? So I'm concentrating on the clearness of the ocean. I'm avoiding the fish, by concentrating. And it's that concentration that seems stressful almost. Stressing, concentrating. It takes a while for that to start to dissipate, for it to become a more comfortable state.
Okay. So you don't want to put the screws on. And this is where watching your body is very helpful, because everything should be open when you do this meditation. And the concentration is on the clarity, not on like this, but the clarity.
That's not how the mind of concentration is.
Yeah. So you want to get the openness feeling. So it's even like this. If you the idea, the example of the aquarium is quite good. I mean, everybody's been to a big aquarium, right? When you go as a child, right? Everybody's been to where they've got the massive tanks, and you see the fish, all sorts of things you see in these massive aquariums. And then the concept that there's water in there is, I mean, you don't even think there's water in there. You only think about the octopus and the starfish and this fish and the yellowfish and the clownfish and whatever. That's what becomes your focus. Does that make sense, or am I wrong? Okay, so that's exactly what we do with our mind. We focus on, I don't have enough money. He doesn't like me. I said something that offended somebody. Oh, I just cut that person off. Oh, that person just cut me off. And that becomes our mantra. Our problems become our mantra. It's poor me, poor me, poor me, poor me, poor me, poor me. And we just don't even see what we've been practicing. For people who were at the Tara meditation, do you see how the Tara meditation sets you up for this one? Because what we were doing with the Tara meditation was experiencing the clarity of the mind. So the mind is, and this you have to, again, you have to check this out and see if I'm right or wrong. The mind is not the problem. The problems are things that go through the mind, but they're not the mind. If our minds were problems, then I can't even see the point in living, frankly. If our minds were just nothing but problems, but it's not the case. The problems are simply, it's like on top of the mind. It's not the mind. The mind is free of the problems. But we've become accustomed to the problems. Our parents were accustomed to the problems. Their grandparents were accustomed to the problems. I'm not saying things don't happen. I'm not saying we don't run out of money. I'm not saying we always have perfect health. I'm not saying that, because those things arise. That's the nature of having a body, is that it's going to fall apart. It's the nature that anything that comes together is going to fall apart. That's just realistic. I'm not making it up. You have to think about it. Anything that comes together, including our body, our relationships, our money, our house, anything that comes together is going to fall apart. That's impermanence. But we don't have to take those thoughts and then nurse them all day long. That's what we do, unless you happen to be different than I am. So when we start to do this meditation, we start to realize that those are simply things that are crossing across the mind. They're going across the mind. And then we can take it and hold on to it. And instead of experiencing the clarity of the mind, we experience this, the narrow. And I swear, watch your body. That's why starting out with a good, healthy posture and watching your posture is so helpful, because you become aware of a good, healthy posture with your spine nice and straight, but not rigid, your shoulders back and down, everything else is relaxed. And now when you become accustomed to that and you start to watch the mind, you start to watch that when you start to focus in on things and get distressed, even your body's going to change, your face is going to change. Watch and see and tell me if this is right or wrong. Start to be aware. This is what we're talking about, is awareness, because we don't have awareness, because we're focused in on the dot. Everybody focuses on the dot. And there's a lot more on the page than the dot. But we focus on the dot. And we want to focus on the whole page like that. We want to focus on the clarity of the ocean and the clarity of the sky. So these sound like simple meditations, but they're very profound, because you should get the experience in here. It's not just, so one time when I used to do the correspondence for Lama Zopa, somebody wrote in, they'd been in Nepal, they'd lived in Nepal, they had a lot of meditation commitments, they got back to the West, time was really tight. And this person wrote to Lama Zopa and said, I don't really have a lot of time to think about the meditation, so I'm just saying the words. Is that okay? Well, Lama Zopa said, well, what's the point? You're just saying the words. The meditation is not just this. The meditation is here. You need to feel it, experience it. And I promise you that if you spend time experiencing the openness of the mind with Tara, with the clear light clarity of the sky or of the ocean, if you spend time familiarizing yourself with that, then you're going to have a different experience in life. But we're all taught to concentrate on the dot. We're all taught to concentrate on the problem. Even if it's not a lesson in school, everybody does it, so you do it too. Does it make sense what I'm saying about, experiencing now the clarity of the mind, sitting for 10 minutes a day, 5 minutes a day, and just experiencing the clarity of the mind, seeing that when these things come in, when the storm clouds come in, they're only temporary. They're there. You put up an umbrella. You can't say they're not there. You can't say that the clouds aren't there, and you can't say it's not raining. But you deal with it. But when the rain stops, you don't stay with the rain. Oh, it rained 10 minutes ago and a half an hour. It rained a half an hour ago. I mean, that's what we do with our thoughts, isn't it? The clouds leave and the sky opens up, but we don't continually complain about the rain. But when our own mind, when the mind closes in, it closes in so deep and tight that we have no space for the clarity, and we just continually go over it and over it and over it. And I'm going to say there can't be anybody who doesn't fall victim to this. But it's not. Remember how my dad used to say that anger was normal and natural. That was his why he got angry, because it was normal and natural. And I said, it's not necessary. It's normal, it's natural, it's not necessary. So all these problems that we have in life, yes, they're normal, they're natural, but they're not necessary. And how they become unnecessary is by learning to think a different way. And it takes practice. You cannot swim when the boat capsizes if you haven't been practicing swimming in the YMCA or some controlled environment before time. You can't handle a major catastrophe in your life easily if you haven't practiced before time. So since death is definite, and if you just think about it a little tiny bit, there's nobody in the world who's gotten out alive. There's nobody. You can't go back through history and find anybody, no matter how much money they had, no matter how many titles they had, no matter how many friends they had, when the time to die comes, they die. And we will too. We don't think we will, but we will. And if it's hard enough to lose a personal personal possession, just wait until we start to lose the body, which is we've been taking care of it since forever. So does it make sense how all these meditations fit together? And in all these meditations, it's finding the clarity of the mind. But it doesn't happen if you don't practice. And that's why coming to the center is useful, because sometimes it's hard to do it at home. Trust me. I mean, what I try to do every day is read some Lam every morning after breakfast. I can't tell you how many days I forget. And I put the book right next to where I'm eating. So one should think that I'd have, halfway smart enough to see the book. At the end of the day, I see the book. Geez, I didn't do it. So you've got to create the habit, and it has to make sense. If it doesn't make sense, then it doesn't work. So does this make sense? And that people have questions around this? Because this is important to understand, and it's important to feel and to experience the difference between focusing on this and then letting go.
Letting go. I told my fellow member here, I was having a problem that companies stole $10 from me. I could have afforded the $10, but I couldn't focus on the meditation. He said, you have to think about that was at that time, but this time it's for meditation. And just leave the other problem over there. And right now you're only doing one thing.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, well, and also the other thing is you can handle your problems better if you've got a clear mind. That if we separate ourselves from the problems, I'm not saying we don't have to handle problems. We do. We have to handle difficulties. But to handle it with a clear mind, or there's a big difference between talking to somebody when you're all upset and you're focused in on that energy and you've been wronged, and how dare they wrong you, is really different than just addressing the problem with a clear mind. So every step you take, a clear mind is helpful, but you don't get it by just wishing. Wishing is good. You need to wish it. Like my dad didn't wish to not get angry because he didn't think there was the possibility of not getting angry. And that's the way most people live. That's why we have to see how lucky we are to have come through this door today. Because most people think that it's normal and natural to get angry. They don't see that it's not necessary. It's unbelievable if we can hear this. Many people, I promise you, you can bring them here and they can sit in that chair and they wouldn't have an idea what I'm saying. So that's when you have to see how lucky each one of us is just to have come into this room. It's really profound. And then we take away what we can and we work on it. And the more we work on that, then the more space is open to work on the next thing. It's the way it goes. Any questions, please? Anybody, anywhere? Okay, so I'm sorry Javier's not here because he had asked about how to deal with with meditation, because what are the problems you can experience in meditation? Tell me what the problems are that you'll experience in meditation.
Becoming distracted.
Mm-hmm. That's really right? I mean, don't we all get distracted? It's especially you can get distracted at home because you're carving time out of whatever it is that engages you. So distracted. What else could be the problem with meditation?
Me feeling that it's not important.
Oh, that's interesting. You have to do some foundational work for that one, because if you don't think it's important, then you won't do it at all. I mean, that's not a problem with the meditation. That's a problem with even getting to the meditation. Yeah, so you have to do some foundational work. You have to see I have to say, in the years that I've known you, you're a much nicer, happier, easier person than you were before. Even your whole body, the way you hold your body, the way you talk. I mean, I've seen a big change in you. I don't know, have you not had experience of benefiting?
Oh, absolutely. And 6 months ago, I recommitted to my program of meditation. I do it every morning, but I just noticed still that sometimes it's like, oh, maybe I can let that go.
Oh,
It's not
gotcha.
it's not that important, really.
Gotcha.
I got this kind of thing,
Gotcha.
you know.
Okay, that's really interesting because that does happen. And I do understand that, but it's good to ride through that then. That's why a commitment is important. Because if you have a commitment, then your chances of showing up are better. Yeah, it's really easy to let things get in the way.
Kind of like there was one distraction, it sounds.
Yeah. So the two things that generally bother people when they meditate is number one, distractions, and number two, dullness. Where you can get so relaxed, you just start to snore, start to fall asleep, you glaze over, So Javier had asked about this, and is Patty? I know probably we can't communicate, but I sent to Patty today a document on the ways to handle these problems. I made a copy for myself too, but I don't see it. So there are actual ways to address both dullness and distractions.
The last thing I wanted to suggest also is a physical discomfort. Meditation.
Yeah, that's like a distraction.
That's a distraction, right?
Yeah, all of this is very interesting because it's a really nice idea if you guys can ever do a retreat. We used to do them every year with the center. Every Christmas, we used to do a retreat. It's a really good idea to do it because right now we're just doing little snippets of meditation, but when you go to a retreat, you have a very rigorous schedule, and then you get to see your mind in action quite easily. The thing about physical pain is that you have to know what the difference between something that's really wrong, that needs to be addressed, or your mind complaining. Because the mind is very, very tricky, and it will find ways to distract you. And that's where concentration is important. That's why I say doing a retreat is good, because you get a chance to really try it out. Because I do know that I do know this from experience, that you can be meditating and then you'll get a pain. And then you go, oh, well, finished. I got a pain. That's it. It's over. But now that pain, it's just like the fish. You get the pain, you recognize it, and you return your attention to the object of concentration. You get the pain, you recognize it, you return your attention to the object of concentration. And then the more you return your attention to the object of concentration, the less powerful the pain sensation is. You just have to acknowledge it. But if you put your attention on the pain sensation, just like putting your attention on the distraction, it becomes the whale in the ocean of your mind. So, I don't think meditation is all that easy, frankly, but I think it's really worthwhile, because you start to see these things and you start to get control over your mind. So facing these obstacles are really important. And it's really important to go beyond the obstacle. So the clarity of the mind meditations are helpful in these regards. So you acknowledge the distraction. You don't not acknowledge it. You acknowledge it. And then you take your attention off of it. And it'll come again. And you take your attention off of it. So try like that with the pain. And good, you have a commitment, because then you show up. And that's great. So in terms of distraction, so let's say that you're meditating and you're having a really hard time focusing. Your mind is all over the place. And that's day to day. Some days you'd have a really great meditation and you think you've got it down pat. And then the next day your mind's all over the place. So when you're faced with a distraction, that's when you return your attention to your breath.
But you try. And we have to make that effort.
You do, but what I'm saying is one of the antidotes to distraction is returning your attention to your breath. Like I'm saying with the pain, you return your attention to the breath. What do we do with the breath? When something disturbs you or distracts you, and you acknowledge it, but the breath becomes the focus. I used to teach women, and when they got to be older, they had a very hard time sleeping. I think that happens when you get older. But I find I can sleep anywhere, because I learned how to meditate. And even if you have periods of insomnia, why are you having periods of insomnia? Why? Because the mind's so busy. That's why you're having insomnia. So if you can do your breathing meditation, take your attention off of all the fish that are going on in your mind, then that leaves room for sleep. And then, of course, in your meditation, that's another problem, is you're sleeping in your meditation. But the focusing on your breath is a huge antidote to distraction, because it's putting your attention backward in this neutral position. And then if you're doing an image, if you're visualizing an image like we did Tara, then you want to see the images because remember, the images are light, right? And we see them as light. But when they're light, when they're without any substance, that can allow your mind to be distracted. So now you see the image is really heavy. You have to do this with your mind if you're having a hard time with it. You can also take the image. Remember with Tara today, we had Tara at she's a body's length away, and you have her large basically. But if you're having trouble with distractions, then you make her tiny. You make your image tiny, because that makes your focus, you make it heavy and tiny like that. And you return your attention to your breath. The other one, another one, and this can be for sleepiness or for drowsiness, for sleepiness or distraction. And that's visualizing a seed in your navel. A seed.
Say what?
A seed. Seed. Yeah, inside, not sitting in your outside of your navel, but inside. Now you take your concentration and you put your concentration deep inside at your navel. And that becomes your focal point. And the top half of the seed is white, and the bottom side seed of the seed is red. So now you have this new focus of concentration. You haven't been using this focus of concentration, so you're not immune to it. Sometimes you can get immune to things. So now instead, you've got this new focus of concentration, which is this little tiny seed inside your body at your navel level. And it's white on the top and red on the bottom. So now you have a new level of concentration, something new, refreshing, like that. And then you go back. You don't stay there. The whole point is to bring your mind in, to focus your mind in, so you can go back to your meditation. The other one, in terms of commitment and in terms of any distraction, is to think of something sobering. And a very good topic is death. To think about death. Here you are, that you're goofing off during your meditation. And what if your next breath was your last breath? What a pity. So now you re-engage your attention, because that's a for sure. And then another one, I explain this when I explain the posture. Another thing is to check your posture. If you've become really distracted, then the chances are that you've lost a lot of the points of the posture. And then the other thing is that we don't talk about is to be patient with yourself. So if you get distracted, I can say that this was a really big problem for me, was I was way too harsh on myself. I actually I call it self-flagellation. I would beat myself up when I wasn't performing in my meditation. Others can do it. Why can't you? So you've got to really, really, really watch that. That doesn't mean you give over completely. It just means what we're talking about here, with everything we're talking about, is learning your own mind. Not to be lazy or sloppy, but to be kind. Oh, yes. Remember to pass around the microphone. I forget. It should be. There. Speak.
Hello?
Back 1, 2. Yeah, we're having some technology. It's not working. Sorry.
So maybe I should go again?
Sure.
It's supposed to go through the microphone, through the app.
It's supposed to be set up. It worked last week.
You were last week.
Isn't that on?
It is, yes. Go ahead, Gracia. We'll just try to repeat it.
Okay.
We're here. You can take the microphone. Come.
Okay. I just wanted to thank the question about that meditation is not important, because if I don't think something is important, then I just give other things priority. So I was thinking first, well, maybe it would be important to review what's important, why is so important from your experience, right? And I'm thinking my limited experience with meditation, that it is subduing my crazy mind
Exactly.
to me, and it's helping me to solve my own problems. Whereas before I was thinking I had to ask other people. But I was hoping that you might review the bigger points about meditation.
Well, that's a huge topic. And it's the La Marin, basically. There's a book that you can get for free from Wisdom Publications called La Marin Year. And I highly recommend it. Highly, highly, highly. It's free. It doesn't cost you money. You pay for the postage. And that's what I try to read every single day. It's La Marin Year. And it's 365 pages of the La Marin. And that will keep you on target of what's important. But it's exactly like you said, to subdue your crazy mind. But who cares about you? You're just a small blob on the ocean. But there are so many other beings who are dependent upon you because they're the ones that aren't in the room. They're the ones that can't hear what we're talking about. And they're suffering. And if you can't do it, I mean, for me, this is a really huge topic. If you can't do it, who is going to do it? If not, the expression, if not you, who? If not now, when? You think you're going to do it tomorrow? When your last breath could be next breath? This is so motivating if you keep your mind on that fact that, okay, so we're one individual, we're going to expire, and so what? But that means all these other beings are going to suffer because you didn't keep your attention on the ball. All the people, all your family, all the people, everybody, you becoming a ray of light, going out and doing your shopping and giving a smile to someone and changing their day so they have levity is an amazing thing to do. But you can't do that unless you practice being a happy person. And you can't just force being a happy person. You have to become a happy person from the inside out. And that's why we meditate. What does meditation mean?
To become familiar,
Oh, right.
to familiarize.
So now we are familiar with all the habits that bring us to a bad conclusion. So why we meditate is to have ourselves familiarized with habits that bring naturally a good conclusion. And that good conclusion is for ourselves, but then in order to benefit others. Just imagine if we were, from the moment we were born, we were clear of problems, and the only thing we wanted to do was benefit others. Our whole experience would be different, but that's not the way. We want me first. It's the way, check up and see, how it is. You can slowly change your focus by recognizing that everybody else thinks they should be me first. But it's hard to let go when you think you should be first. And it's not even conscious, it's just deep inside we feel that way. So have you had benefits from meditation? Yeah. Yeah, you have to have. If you don't have, then you won't be back.
But it's like you fake it till you make it, right? Because it's like it doesn't happen right away.
No, you have to have some. I think one thing that has to happen is you have to be fed up enough. If you're not fed up enough, I was fed up. I was so tired of saying things that hurt people. I was so tired of so many things about myself that I had no ability or control over, because it was like an avalanche. My thoughts were like an avalanche. And I wanted not to be like that. And so that was so strong in me. And I really didn't want to be my father in terms of the anger component. But I didn't know how not to be my father. I didn't know how, but I didn't want to be. So you have to be lucky enough to have enough, to be fed up enough with whatever your situation is, that you seek, and you don't turn to alcohol, you don't turn to drugs. I mean, that's what happens, isn't it? You don't head for the refrigerator and eat all the chocolate in the house. You know, you turn to something that can really benefit you, and that's where meditation comes into play. So, okay, thank you for that. What are the two types of meditation? I'm going to tell you what's taught as the two types of meditation, and then I'm going to give you my slant on it, but you've got to learn what the book says first. What are the two types of meditation?
It's analytical and visual.
Well, that's the way I teach it. What they say is that it's analytical and concentration stabilizing. That's the two types that are taught. Now, for me, you have to know that, okay? Because there's a lot of ways actually to explain this. But for me, what really works is to consider that the stabilizing meditation is your number one meditation. Because if you don't have a stable mind, if you can't focus, then you can't do an analytical meditation. So the way I like to break it down, but please, you read His Holiness. I mean, everybody has a different way. So I like to say that stabilizing is numero uno. And you start every meditation with a stabilizing meditation. What happens when that becomes your number one meditation is that then from that point, then you go into emptiness because you just let go and you focus on emptiness, or just the being. But for our purposes, the stabilizing meditation, for me, that's the neutral position for the mind. It's the place I always return, experiencing the very slight sensation of the inhalation and the exhalation. Once that's done, then you can engage in an analytical meditation, which is where you move your mind into a realistic position. So what I mean like that, impermanence is an analytical meditation. If children were taught impermanence from the time they were little, imagine how much stress would be removed from their life, because their toys are going to fall apart. It is the way it is. And people are going to die. That doesn't mean you don't love them and you don't miss them when they die, but it's natural they're going to die. So impermanence is like a huge wake-up call. I really challenge you to think back in your life at how many times you've been distressed over something breaking. Because, it came on the Mayflower, it was handed down from generations to generations, and you were the person and the guardian of this vase that came over on the Mayflower. I mean, some kind of story, where you build a big importance on an object and it gets destroyed or chipped, and then you're finished for a while. You're distressed for a while because this object that was going to fall apart at some point in time fell apart in front of you. Or somebody dies. I'm not saying you don't love them and you don't miss them, but of course they're going to die, or you die first. And those of us that live a little bit longer, we watch the body fall apart. I thought when I was young, I thought people were somehow always old. It never dawned on me that they were once young like me and then they became old. It was like such a shock to see that I'm old. But there are people who go into depression, serious depression, because they've been young, they've been beautiful, they've had physical prowess, and all of a sudden they've lost all of that, and they hide in their house. They don't go out. So that's a big. That's an analytical meditation. Meditating on death is an analytical meditation. That death is definite. Death is definite, but the time of death is indefinite. And the only thing that helps you at the time of death is your spiritual development. Not how many cars you have, not how many houses you have, not how much money you have, not how many friends you have, because none of those things are going with you. The only thing going with you is your own mind. And it's going to determine how you experience the death process. And if you've been miserable in life, it's pretty sure you're going to be miserable at death. So these are the kinds of sobering thoughts that you use to restore your commitment or to get you back on track when you become drowsy or when you become, actually, if you're drowsy, you should think something really chirpy, something really, because you may just want to fall asleep for sure, meditating on death, because I don't want to think about that. So if you're drowsy, you think of something exhilarating. If you're distracted, you think of something sobering to get you back in the saddle again, like that. So stabilizing meditation is number one, analytical meditation and visualization meditation. This is the way I teach it because it makes common sense to me. And so the analytical meditation moves your mind into a realistic position, and the visualization meditation moves it unites your mind with your qualities. It puts your mind into contact with your qualities. These qualities, like we did with the Tara meditation, those are our qualities. We have those qualities, but we're not familiar with them.
So is visualization like a subset of one of the two?
Well, I hold them as two separate things.
So visualization is a third? Or
Well, they don't even, if you read Kindness, Clarity, and Insight, which is a book by His Holiness talks about Vipassana and analytical meditation. But he doesn't mention, he uses the visualization as a stabilizing meditation. But for me, it's helpful to dissect it a little more because of what the different meditations do. So the one, remember, moves your mind into a realistic position. And the other one, that's where you familiarize yourself with your already existing qualities. Already your mind is clear. That this meditation that we did where we cleared the channels, that's the way our mind is clear. It is clear.
What's the name of the meditation?
9-round breathing.
And I have a question on that.
Yeah.
No, so the 9-round breathing, does it matter which nostril you start with?
Well, it does in terms of tradition and in terms of, because this meditation is being taught at a very basic level, but it is part of the esoteric tantras. So learning it the way it's taught is good to do because it feeds into a bigger picture.
And that's with starting with the left nostril, breathing in.
You
No.
close the left.
Okay.
And
And
you,
breathe.
because it's all, it has to do with the different nostrils are related to attachment and aversion. And
Okay.
so, so it's just a good habit.
And then with that too, so it's breathing in through the right, closing the left, then exhaling through the left. And then I thought there was a breath in through the left and then out through the right.
But that's just somebody's just changed it up for you.
No, I'm wondering if I changed up in my own mind.
Oh, you
I want to
could've.
do it right.
No, it's the way it's taught. This is a Lama Yeshe meditation.
Yeah.
Lama Yeshe was like the first person to take this meditation from the esoteric tradition and bring it down. And the seed, that's Lama Yeshe too. These are the things that Lama did. No other Lama did it. They were like, that Lama was doing this with these Western people, these heathens. But it works for us because you get the feeling. We need that feeling. So you breathe in through the right, out through the left,
And then start
in
again.
through the right,
Okay.
out through the left. And when Lama used to do it, my memory is that Lama used to use the opposite finger from the breath. So you're closing the left nostril. He would close it with the right hand, and then he'd switch it over like this. That's my memory on how Lama used to do it. But you clear the right channel. Right is red. That's how I remember. Right is red. You clear it, and then you close the right and you breathe in through the left and clear it. That's white, and blue's the center, like that. But you can this can become a major meditation for you. You can spend a lot of time on this because you can get a really good visualization going. You can visualize that you're not just breathing out, you're breathing out scorpions, you're breathing out smoke from smokestacks, and you can go all the way down to your toes, and you can get out every little piece of arthritis, and you can just, you can really make this a very vivid meditation if you want. And then, but the whole point now, when you're clear, when you're and this thing about channels is not a joke. If anybody has ever sobbed, has anybody in this room ever sobbed? It's that sob that you can't even breathe, right? It's like that. You see it on people on TV, they do good jobs. And the shoulders come, and you can't breathe, and you're sobbing, and your mind's completely a thunderstorm. Your channels are all knotted. You can't even stop it because the channels are all knotted. And then you can get physical illness from these channels being blocked and knotted. So this is a really great, even for just people who have no interest at all in Buddhism, just health, just getting them to visualize themselves clear, and to visualize their shoulders opening up like that. It's terrific. Or you can just use it as the beginning meditation to focus yourself to go on to the next meditation, like that.
This is something about the leftist aversion and something else, that there's some connection between.
Yeah, this is between the nadis, between the channels. I have to look this up, but my memory is that this is the anger, and that this is the aversion, and this is indifference. That's my memory. Remind me to look it up. Yeah. So where are we? We're really running out of time. So let's do this. Stabilizing analytical visualization. Those are like my. Okay. I don't know. I only have 7 minutes. Let's just quickly try to do this. This transforming negative experiences into positive is really life-changing. So we're going to run through it, and then your homework for the week is to practice this. So now just quickly spend a little bit of time, just very quickly, analyzing your day, or the day before, and your experiences. And let's think about some difficult experiences that you've had. Think about times when you were impatient. Try to make this real, not speculative. So if today's young, so if you haven't had any negative experiences today, maybe think back to a time when you did, because it's better if this is real versus theoretical. So think about when you've become impatient, when you've lost your temper, when you've seen others as the problem in your life, or as your enemy. And particularly if you've ever lashed out at somebody verbally, think about that. Now remember that this situation is over, but now experience the memory. Something that's gone, it's in the past, but bring it to mind. And try to remember the situation from beginning to end. See if you could re-engage your mind with the situation so that you can observe your mind and your behavior as you replay the situation. And then use all the techniques and abilities of mindfulness that you have learned in order to disidentify with the feelings and actions as much as possible. Bring them to mind. They were yours. But now simply watch and observe dispassionately. And think about that negative response that you had. And think about the disadvantages of the way you acted. Think of the harmful nature of the way you acted. You can even feel the way you felt. Don't identify with it, just be an observer of it. But see how you felt during that time. How did you feel when you were impatient and angry? Was your body comfortable? Was it open and relaxed? Did you feel happy when you gave sharp words to somebody? When you became impatient, were you at peace? Check it out and see. And then when you had that angry feeling, and it led to angry words, and maybe even angry actions, what effect did that have on you? What effect did it have on the others around you? Did you find that your angry words, your angry actions was a magnet that drew people closer to you, made people want to be with you? Or did it make them uneasy and want them to escape? When you became impatient, did it help the situation? When you've got to wait in line anyway, does tapping your toe and huffing and puffing make it easier? So think about a time when you were angry and think if there was anything positive about the situation. What did it do to everyone around you? What did it do to yourself? Did you all feel good because you were angry? Was it like, oh, yay, he was angry? Did it help for everybody to understand the situation better when you closed in with an angry response? So analyze this just quickly. And you probably are going to see that there was no value to your impatience or your anger. It just made a difficult situation even more difficult. So now look at the same situation and think about how you might have handled the situation differently with a calm, balanced, and open attitude. What if you had, instead of having a short fuse, as it's called, what if you had just taken the time to breathe? What if you had gained an open attitude? If you'd been able to compose yourself without anger or impatience or resentment. So watch this scenario again and see how your experience and the experience of others is completely different in a situation like this. And then generate a strong feeling of how extraordinary it would be to be able to manage difficult situations just like this one with a calm, peaceful mind. How wonderful it would be when the day arises that you have the same triggers, and where there once was a tapping of the foot and a huffing and a puffing and a welling anger and a vicious mouth and perhaps even physical actions. Now you are without anger. You are without agitation. They're just not there because you've trained your mind in the disadvantages of these actions and they don't arise anymore. How wonderful that would be. So just quickly replay that situation in your mind from beginning to end, imagining it completely differently. Relive the situation and imagine yourself reacting perfectly with warmth and openness towards the other people, with calm and balance without any anger or agitation. And see how the situation might have played itself out in this totally different way if your input had been different. Different input, different output. How do you feel about yourself now that you've responded to the situation with warmth and understanding? Are you pleased or are you disappointed? What about the experience of people in the room? Was it positive or negative? And now, make a strong determination to commit yourself to the practice that we're engaging in, so that the next time you encounter difficulties that try your patience, you will have the ability to take a breath and step back. And because of your training, because of your commitment, you will be able to respond with openness and patience. Because of our meditation. That you'll be able to keep your mind under control and anger will not be present. And then make an additional commitment, a strong determination that each time you find yourself responding with impatience, agitation, and anger in the future, you will practice the same meditation in order to gradually overcome the negative response patterns that we all fall victim to. And you will train the mind to respond with kindness, balance, and patience. How wonderful that would be. So now fully experience yourself as that kind, balanced, and patient person. Feel yourself as that kind, balanced, and patient person. Seal in all those imprints that we've planted on our mind stream today and all the work that you've done with all of your meditations. Seal them all in so that you feel a divine sense of pride deep in your heart. This is not a worldly sense of pride that pits you against anybody else. This is where you see yourself, how much you've grown and changed for the better. And you recognize it and dedicate it to the welfare of others. Because the more you practice these meditations, the more you become peace in the world. How wonderful that would be. And so imagine that all beings feel happiness and wholeness because of you. How wonderful that would be. And then hold that feeling, the divine sense of pride that fills your whole body, speech, and mind. Hold that. Don't let that disappear. May the precious mind of compassion, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore. So I just want to conclude by reminding people, I told the people in the Tara class that Osel sent me a message before I left this morning that I should tell you all about emptiness. So how emptiness fits into this is that we are not solidly anything. We think of ourselves as solid. My poor father held his anger as solid, but it's not like that. It's not solid, and we can see it. You talked about it, I think, whoever talked about how they've had their own changes in their life because of practicing meditation. If it were solid, if anger or any of these delusions were solid and real and existed from their own side, there'd be no hope. But those of us who've played with meditation a little bit see that we can go from the negative experience that we played with in this meditation, and with new input, we can have a different output. That's brilliant. And that means we don't hold ourselves so solid with such arrogance and pride, particularly when you think that you want to offer the victory to others. So these meditations, these teachings are so profound. So like that, Ralph, you should use that like to keep your energy going. And I will say that it's okay to call a Dharma friend. If you're struggling, you're falling apart, you can't find it, you can't bring the inner resources together, let somebody help you. But don't expect they're going to say, oh, poor you, I understand, the world is just a mess. No, that person will tell you something you may not want to hear. Like, confess your anger, let go of it, acknowledge it, and start over again. They may pull out the Lam Rim and have you, read about death. And death doesn't, being angry doesn't make sense if you've meditated on death. Because who wants their last breath to be an angry one?
I have one other suggestion that really helped me, that came to mind when you suggested the seed, because that made me smile, right? And there's joy in this. This is not all, bad. And Thich Nhat Hanh used to say this, I do this because I meditate because I like it. Because I like it.
Yeah.
And when I'm saying my posture, I think of myself sitting here like a happy little Buddha, and I smile. And I bring joy to the experience.
That's awesome.
Right?
That's awesome. Very nice. Okay, I'm sorry, any last minute questions from people? Thank you very much for showing up in the rain and everything. It was really great of you. Any questions?
Thank you
And,
so much.
please don't be shy to ask questions or call me or whatever. So practice during the week. You'll get these meditations. Please practice. And you know what?